So I wonder if in that experience, or maybe even in your baseball career, if you had one of those moments that things shifted for you.
There was two major lessons there.
Yeah.
Okay. Number one, feedback is a gift. And so share with your team areas of development. And then the second thing is I need to work on this. But I decided to use that moment as a way to take the emotions out of decisions and take the emotions out of when things don't go the right way, because things are not going to go the right way every time. I do like to lead by example. Everybody watches what you do and how you serve the community and how you treat your spouse and how you raise your kids. It's kind of scary that sometimes you realize that maybe the spotlight's on you sometimes.
Well, and it sounds like more you're training people on the job. You're leading the way, how you handle yourself in the boardroom, how you handle yourself in transactions, how you coach. You're just being active around it. You don't have to write the book. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inner Work. I'm Marianne Means-Dufresne, and I'm so excited to have my friend and a personal inspiration of mine, Brad Wallace, here with us today. He is a partner at LKCM Headwater Investments. He joined there in 2006 and previously held chief financial officer roles in several organizations and is passionate about the work that he's able to do, supporting organizations and helping organization and his team be their best. So Brad, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, I appreciate it. It's glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, we've had different conversations about how you view leadership and your leadership philosophy and the impact that you really try to have at Headwater. So I'm excited for our listeners to be able to learn a little bit more about you today. And maybe we could start by sharing kind of just what leadership looks like for you now and what you're in the middle of as a leader.
Oh gosh, I kind of think about myself in a pretty fortunate situation because I've, I guess ever since I graduated from TCU, I had, a couple of goals, but one of my goals is to surround myself with people that are smarter than I am, that I can continue to grow around. And that hasn't been hard, by the way. But I continue to do that. And it's fun seeing the leaders that we have and that we're developing in our firm and that inspire me every day. So, while you call me a leader, I kind of more call myself a teammate. And so if I can be a good teammate, that may result in being a good leader. But if I can inspire the leaders, I think that's, by giving back that way, I think it's a great position to be in. So anyway, I'm looking forward to taking this however you want to, Mary. I get inspired by you, by the way. I've really enjoyed our conversations about leadership and different philosophies around that. So
thank you. Well, and you've talked a lot about the impact of sports, and you used the word teammate and how that has influenced your leadership journey. And we share that, having that background. There's certainly the work ethic and knowing how to put ourselves sometimes in harm's way to benefit our team and benefit our teammates. How has that impacted you over the years?
wow, I would say that you and I both started playing sports at a young age, right? And it certainly shaped me. It was part of me. It was when I played baseball through college, and so when that's gone out of your life, it's an appendage that's gone. Like that's this locker room feel that you have with your team. You always kind of aspire to be part of that, right? And so baseball is a team sport played by individuals. And I'm in a business today, or in the private investment world, where we own several companies and we invest in businesses and we work with individuals and leaders to lead businesses. But our team is a team sport played by individuals, right? Yeah. And what does that mean? I mean, I think ultimately that means you have to show up as a leader. You have to show up as a teammate. You have to pick up your teammates whenever they're down. And in the baseball world, that can come in many different forms. You can, challenge your teammates to bring out the best in them, or you can show up yourself and perform at the level that you need to inspire your teammates or to lift your team up whenever you need to. I think I could use a lot of baseball analogies here, but I certainly feel like athletes, and the correlation for athletes in the business world, there's a high correlation in having leaders. We have a lot on our team. We have, former Princeton football player and wrestler, We have a former, starting quarterback for Cornell for 4 years. We have a All-American soccer player at TCU and at Rice. We have a former leader of the national championship field hockey team for North Carolina on our team. And, it's just interesting how we gravitate toward athletes and just how teamwork actually matters there. And also understanding the difference between winning and losing, right? And in the business world, we all win and we all lose, and overcoming the failures of losing, and then also understanding what it takes to win are so many attributes that I think we could probably spend a whole podcast talking about.
I think we could. Well, and
Right.
I remember the first time we were chatting about this, because our older son he's athletic in some ways, but he's not gravitated toward team sports. And so he's doing swimming and tennis. And I remember we were talking and you said, individual sports are great, but it's really got to be team sports. And I was like, oh no, my 8-year-old son is lost forever. I've got to get him in a team sport. But what do you think is the difference there? And I know you don't really believe that, but what is the difference maker around?
I mean, look, I wouldn't say that there's much of a difference, because if if you're playing tennis or you're playing golf, there's also aspects of that on time management and discipline
Absolutely.
and winning and losing and the mental game of all that. There's just another added element of the team part of it that adds a little bit of, I think, a little special sauce when it comes to the business
Yeah.
world. I mean,
Yeah.
because look, I mean, if face it, I mean, the reason we're all here today is not necessarily because of what we achieved. It's from other people that allowed us to be in the position that we're in, whether
Absolutely.
that be our teachers, our professors, our partners, uh, our spouses, all the our family, our parents.
Yeah.
So we're all fortunate to have that and bring that into the business world as well. But I think I
That's right.
I don't know that I think he's got a chance. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good. Brad thinks there's a chance.
Yeah.
Well, and I had a call earlier today for one of my leadership programs. A couple of your guys were on, and they're overwhelmingly the group was athletic, former athletes. So these are people now either in leadership transition or moving forward in their career or looking at kind of a what's next for me opportunity. And I always end up talking about being corporate athletes because there are so many parallels between either our previous history or we at least have an understanding of the vernacular around being an athlete, preparing ourselves, the discipline required, being in our best physical condition, which to me is the best rationale for self-care. I get tired of saying self-care because it starts to feel soft and unimportant. But if we're talking about being in our best physical state, that's what it is, right?
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. And a great, it's the body of an athlete, a corporate athlete.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love how you put that.
Yeah. So you can use that one
Okay. I'll
with
do
your
it.
team.
Yeah. Corporate athlete.
So for you, because one of the things we're talking about on the podcast is moments that everything shifted for us a little bit. And so often we're in the process of building something. Because how old was Headwater when you came on board?
Well, we formed Headwater in 2011. So I'd been on board for about 6 years when we formed it. Yeah.
So that process of ideating, creating something new, stepping into that, no better training ground for issues like imposter syndrome and fear of failure to creep up and to pop up. But in that process of stepping into this idea or this vision, often people experience something that changes or the opportunity is calling on something different from us.
hmm
And so I wonder if in that experience, or maybe even in your baseball career, if you had one of those moments that things shifted for you.
Yeah. I would say that, there's not a major moment, I would say, in my career that created a shift. And I can kind of go through the history on how we, started Headwater. There were a couple of maybe moments that I think have shaped me on who I am today.
Mhm.
One of which actually dates back to maybe my senior year in college. And, we're kind of late in the season.
Yeah.
I was having a good career or a good year that particular year. And I remember it was before a game and I was kind of preparing for the game mentally, sitting on the bench, about ready to go. And my coach, Lance Brown, who I'd have a ton of respect for, came down and sat next to me, and he said, "Hey, Brad, I want you to know something, and that is that there's a couple of scouts here today, one from the Kansas City Royals and one from the Cincinnati Reds, that are here at the game." And I was thinking, well, we're facing a really good pitcher that day, so I think they're there, watching the pitcher. And he said, "Well, they're here to see you." And I was like, "Wow, that's flattering."
Yeah.
And he said, "But I just want you to know that there's, the scouting report on you is there's concerns about your ability to go to the next level because of your emotional state. Everybody in the crowd, everybody knows if Brad Wallace is upset." And so, kind of going back a little bit on me. So, like in high school, I was known to be a little bit of a hothead. I guess it's the red hair.
The red hair. I
I,
mean,
I did get thrown out of a couple of games. I had to explain to the umpires about how they got the calls wrong, and I was trying to teach them about how to do better at what they did, and they just
it's
decided that I
coaching.
needed
It's
to be coaching the
coaching.
game, and I had to watch the game from the stands. Uh, but I kind of, I was an emotional player. I let my last at bat affect, how I played in the field, and you can't do that in professional baseball.
Yeah.
And there I was my senior year. And now, yes, did my father say something to me, or did some of my peers say something to me about, "Hey, dude, you need to calm down"? Yeah, but it wasn't until that moment that I realized it's like, wait a minute. So my behaviors on the field, even though I had the athletic abilities, my behaviors were preventing me to go to the next level in the sport.
Yeah.
And I was both, I was, I was a little upset about that for a
Sure.
couple reasons. I wish I got that coaching 4 years prior to
That's
that.
what I was gonna say. I have so many
Like,
questions, like,
yeah,
why is, like,
like why?
you're at the end of your career,
Yeah,
why was this not part of the
yeah.
conversation?
So there was two major lessons there.
Yeah.
Okay. Number one, feedback is a gift. And so, like, share with your team areas of development. And I wish I'd had that conversation 4 years prior, and who knows what that would have led to.
That's right.
And then the second thing is I need to work on this. And so I did have a chance to play professional baseball. I did not do that. I decided to start a real career after my senior year.
Yeah.
But I decided to use that moment as a way to take the emotions out of decisions and take the emotions out of when things don't go the right way, because things are not going to go the right way every time.
Yeah.
And so if you remove that, you neutralize a room. And
Mhm.
so when I tell that story to people, people are shocked about that. Like, Brad, you don't ever display that sort of emotions when it comes to decision making or things that don't go our way when it comes to investments.
Yeah.
And I think it was a defining moment for me, for sure. So
Yes.
I think that certainly shaped me going into the business world, of course, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, do you feel like, because there's a sense that I have had a hard time accessing anger in the past. We all respond to different situations differently, where some people might tend to be more fearful, some people might tend to react with anger. I see this in my kids, where my son is the more cautious, tentative, and tends to what make everything okay. And Margot is like, "Arr, I'm in there, and I'm going to express everything that I'm feeling in this moment." Is it less authentic for you to contain that anger, or are you just expressing it differently?
Yeah, I'd say it's more natural for me now. I'm just in a different state of mind. I've just built, I think, maybe a reputation and a career and a leadership style that may be different than it was whenever I was on the baseball field.
Yeah.
Am I still competitive? Absolutely. I define success as winning. I honestly do. And I boil it down for me to to what is success. And
Yeah.
for us, success is driving optimal risk-adjusted returns for our limited partners, and
Mm.
everything we should do should drive toward that.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
winning. That's winning. And if we happen to lose along the way, I like to think about those as moments to advance the way we can do things better
Awesome.
on the next go around, the next investment. We spend a lot of time working on things that don't end up amounting to either something we do, or they amount to maybe getting returns that are suboptimal relative to what we underwrote to. But guess what? What that means is if you build a good team, you're going to always, uh, moderate toward the mean, so to speak. And so that means your next investment is going to be that much better from what you've learned in the past. And so it's hard to do that if you're emotional about it
Yeah.
and you blame other things and other
Mm.
non-controllables or even controllables that get in the way of making sure that you learn your lessons to make sure you're better on the next one.
Hey, noticers, if you're dreaming of glowing, healthy skin, you must try Hana Azul Korean skincare. Myung Chong has been transforming skin for 27 years with facials so good, they create the Hana Azul glow. I've been going to her med spa for years, and my skin looks better than ever. Her products use medical-grade ingredients that truly nourish your skin and keep it radiant. Visit hennaazul.com to explore her amazing products and services. That's HANNAISUL.com. Now go get your glow. Well, and I'm reflecting back on your kind of defining moment there with the coaching that you were offered and how often we will receive that kind of thing with a sense of shame,
Mhm.
or it is almost like the veil was taken. You're like,
Yeah.
now I'm exposed. Everybody knew this and I didn't know
Yeah.
this. And what did you do to coach yourself in that
Oh my
moment?
gosh. Well, first off, I was it's kind of funny. I was mad.
Mhm.
So I took it out on my first at bat. I remember I hit a home run on my first at bat. I took it out on the baseball.
There you
Which,
go.
by the way, I may have struck out maybe a couple of times during that game, but the fun thing is about 30 years after playing baseball, I only remember the home runs and the doubles. I don't remember the strikeouts.
There you go.
Sure, it's funny how that works. But clearly, I mean, it's yeah. How did I do that? I don't think it was deliberate. I mean, I'm not really. I haven't until the last probably 10 or 15 years reflected on that story. I knew that story existed, but it wasn't until I had management teams tell me like, okay, Brad, you just gave me a talking to. You just disciplined me and encouraged me to do something better. But you did it in such a diplomatic way. I didn't feel like I was getting chewed out or I didn't feel like I was. And I was like, well, that's interesting because that wasn't me 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I think that was, a defining moment for kind of how I lead things. And I maybe I'm accused of being maybe more collaborative than I need to. And I'm not as forceful on things, but it's all about trying to be a good teammate and pulling people along on decisions as well. So,
Absolutely.
or,
And so knowing that your team, that you all look favorably on people that have this history around sport. So you've got a team full of competitive people, and that's common in PE and
right.
in your industry anyway. How do you balance that? Because you want to stoke those competitive fires and the sense of I want to achieve in and of myself despite any barriers, and then balance it with how we collaborate together as a team.
I mean, you've got to let people run, right? I think people want upward mobility. Folks want to be able to be a valuable contributor to the effort toward whatever you're building. Okay, so we have an overall goal of building something special at LKCM Headwater, but every day the way we do that is we help our leadership teams drive value within their companies, and there could be 10 to 20 initiatives going on with each company, and we have 25 businesses in our portfolio.
Mhm.
So unleashing opportunities for folks to run with that, I think is super important. I mean, and I think, we like to live by a little bit of a motto that, it's not about who gets the credit, it's teamwork that gets us there. And if it's amazing what you can accomplish, if nobody cares about who gets the credit. I think it's Truman that was quoted to say that.
Yeah.
So there's so many elements of like letting people run, giving them the rope to really lead things
Mhm.
that I think allows athletes to be able to flourish in our environment.
That's awesome. Now, I've experienced Headwater as different than a lot of other PE firms. What would you say is the perspective that really does make Headwater different?
Well, it is, and it's not until you hear that from so many people that you realize that what we built is something special. We are people oriented. Okay. So yes, we invest in businesses, but it's really the people that make the difference. And so I think if you start with that and then you build an alignment structure where your incentives are equally aligned with your leadership teams and your investment team,
Mhm.
special things end up happening, right? And then alongside that, we built a larger ecosystem around us with our limited partners who are really focused on compounding their dollars over a longer period of time. And so we don't necessarily have the institutional capital pressure of doing things in a very short period of time where we're, you know, recycling companies in a 3 to 5 year period of time. And
Mhm.
so it allows us to have, yes, do we apply pressure? Yes. Do we want results? Absolutely. But it's not the kind of pressure that allows us to have uncomfortable moments with our leadership teams. We can still build relationships and we can build something special. And so many of our leadership teams, even those that we have exited and sold, remain our good friends and they remain our limited partners. They recycle their dollars back
Right.
into what we're doing because they enjoy what we do. Uh, but again, that's a subject I could talk about for a while. It's taken, I've been with the firm 20 years now, and in the effort, founding effort behind what we do inside of what is a 45-year-old firm
Yeah.
started about 5 years before I got here. But we build on this every day. The culture
Mhm.
that we have today is something that just kind of has compounded into where something special that we have to
It's
that.
amazing. And, so often organizations, especially smaller founder-led organizations, really represent the character of the people who founded it. How do you think that you and Brian in particular have really inspired the culture? How is it related to who you are?
I think you're going to have to ask others on our team that question. I think that's tough for us to answer. I mean, our partnership started as a friendship. We knew each other for 10 years before we started this. And so, uh, my journey to get here is interesting. I went to him as a friend as I was getting out of business school saying, "Hey, I have these amazing career opportunities I could go pursue. What do you think about them?" And he said,
Mhm.
"Why don't you try this?"
Yeah.
And it was a leap of faith because it was in early stages of it was idea phase, but
Yeah.
we shared this passion and this belief together about building
Mhm.
businesses. And so if you start with passion and you have a similar belief system, then you kind of speak in stereo around the people that
Yeah.
you work with, right? It's not like
Mhm.
you've got one partner that is thinking something differently. So, we are fortunate also in the fact that the firm was 25 years old when we started our effort, and so
Yeah.
it had a
Some
culture
stability.
and
Yeah.
it had, stability, like you said, going into it. We got to start on second base relative to some of our peers who are, starting at ground zero.
Yeah.
So
Great point. Well, as I hear you talk, though, I see a direct line between the spirit that you've been talking about of coaching people, investing in people, looking at the long game, that you do that on the individual level. And you do that in what I've seen in terms of how you invest in the community and in your family.
Mhm.
And so that's the energy with which you lead. That's what people absorb in the environment, and they carry that forward.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, look, I'm not gonna put myself in a category. First off, I hate you saying, "Oh, I'm this leader or whatever." I really don't think about it that way. As I think about leaders, I think about like the Jack Welches of the world and those that stand up and lead with a megaphone. I'm definitely not that. So, I have found myself in positions going back to athletics. Like okay, end of the season, we're voting on MVP, and all of a sudden Brad Wallace gets voted MVP. I'm like, what? I mean, I've always kind
Is
of
there another Brad Wallace?
I've always kind of thought about leaders as though that are like cheerleading in the dugout. I'm not that. I'm not that. I do like to lead by example, as you talk about, and so whether it's your kids, I mean, everybody watches you, right? Everybody watches what you do and how you serve the community and how you treat your spouse and how you raise your kids, and so uh, it's kind of scary that sometimes you realize that maybe the spotlight's on you at sometimes, but look, if you lead that way and people want to follow that, then I think that's great. That's a great position to be in. So, so yeah, Yeah, I don't think about it as preaching to somebody you need to do something. I just think about it as, hey, I want to lead the way. I want my other people to behave
Yeah.
and do the things that I want others to do. And if they want to follow that, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like more you're training people on the job. It's you're leading the way. You're how you handle yourself in the boardroom, how you handle yourself in transactions, how you coach. It's you're just being active around it. You don't have to write the book, though maybe one day you could, but you don't have to write the book like Jack Welch and get it out in front of everybody. It's
Right.
quieter, and
Yeah.
it's focused on the service that you do day in day out, and slowly and quietly building a
Yeah.
strong team that can replicate your efforts.
Yeah. I kind of maybe want to be known as the teammate that was a valuable contributor to winning the game.
Yeah.
That's how that's what I think about every day. It's not about saying I'm the MVP or saying that I'm the leader of that to be able to get there. I want my teammates to feel just as empowered and just as successful as I do, regardless of where they are in the spectrum of hierarchy in our efforts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, what is winning in your world? What does winning mean to you?
Well, I'm going to be super simple about this and super specific, and that is driving superior returns for our partners. And what that ultimately means on a day-to-day basis is working with our leadership teams to build better companies. So we're buying businesses that need improvement, even if we think they're operating at peak performance, even if we're just in maintaining mode or we're supplementing with different product categories or service lines or talent. We're waking up every day making our businesses better to build more value for somebody to come acquire for a lot more than what we paid for it. At the end of the day, that is winning for us. And if we drive that and we create optimal returns for our limited partners, that means great economics for everybody on our team. It means great economics for our leadership teams. And it means that more investors want to invest alongside us. That is winning. And I like winning. And I don't think there's anything wrong with winning. I got, maybe criticized as I was a little league baseball coach just because I happen to be the guy that played baseball. So, hey, Brad, you're going to coach.
You got to do it. You got to step up.
Which, by the way, I don't know that being a little league baseball coach correlates with like being a great baseball player. It's a totally different sport. But I would send the emails at the beginning of the season and I would define what success is. And I said, success is winning, and for anybody that wants to come out here and just have fun, that's not what I do. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, at the end of the day, like at the end of the season, those that won usually had more fun.
Yeah. 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 Well, and that experience of working really hard for something and the reward that comes even if you didn't win, but you literally get, because sometimes you can't win or there's a different version of winning that you end up experiencing,
Right.
but you left it all on the field.
Absolutely.
And you did there's just, I don't know if there's anything better than that sense
Well,
of
if you want to win, guess what you have to do? You have to show up. You have to practice. You have to practice hard. You have to be a good teammate.
put in
Like
the
all the if you do all those things, it results in learning, and it results in something being a better person at the end of the practice or the end of the season than you were when you started.
Yeah. Yeah. And in this context too, though, one of the things that separates, I think, your philosophy from a lot of other PE firms or investment firms is that there's a quality to the win as well. And there's a more of a longer term view, because there are a lot of people that would say the cash out in 3 years, that's the win.
Yeah.
And so I think you talk big, Brad, but I think you're concerned about the quality of it and the people who benefit from it too.
You want to win, but you want to do it the right way.
Yeah.
There is a wrong way in our business to do it, and there is a right way to do it in our business.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to cuss on this podcast or not, but we just heard somebody recently, and he said, our field is full of assholes. And he's like, I've been here for a couple months now. Brad, y'all don't have any assholes on your
There's
team.
no asshole. It's true. It's true.
Right.
It's true. And that again, that's I don't think you can have that and have an asshole leader, to be
Right.
honest.
Right. We have I'd say it starts with Brian. The level of empathy that he has and what the King family have done for us, it definitely starts there, and it infiltrates throughout our team for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. Well, let's trend toward closing out here. And this is something I'm trying out. So let's see what you think about it. So kind of a quick fire close, and share with me one book, one value, and one daily habit or daily practice that's meaningful for you. So start with one book.
Good to Great. It's just, I think Jim Collins, it's a kind of the go-to in business, and that's kind of that's our business. How do you make things better?
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Got the book. What about a value that you live by?
Value that I live by. Oh gosh. I would say alignment would be maybe the biggest.
Huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Through, I mean, personally, professionally.
And that could be down to economics. It could
Yeah.
be down to alignment on goals.
Mhm.
I think that's a critical one.
And that takes clarity.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely. And then one daily habit that you swear by.
Uh, I've got several daily habits, but I don't do them every day.
Does it make a daily habit? It's just a habit.
So, well, obviously, exercising is super important, and I would say the most important daily habit that I subscribe to is gratefulness, showing gratefulness in some way. And I think the health that you get from that and the happiness that you get from that exudes so much confidence and so much positivity around you, whatever you do.
Yeah. And peace,
And peace,
which
That's
there's
right.
not enough of in this world.
No doubt.
Well, Brad, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. It's been incredible and inspiring to hear about your leadership journey. And thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on Inner Work. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Marianne.